This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 52.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, a show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramzi Majaba. Ramzi gets a haircut once every 3 weeks.
Hello, SE Nation, and welcome to the 52nd episode of We the Sales Engineers. For those of you who don't know me, if you're listening for the first time, my name is Ramzi Majaba. I'm a sales engineer out of Ottawa, Canada, and I've been doing sales engineering for close to 5 years. We do have guests coming down the pipe, but I wanted to do this episode as a solo episode because there has been something on my mind that I wanted to discuss with everybody. I graduated university back in 2009. I studied communications engineering, and I had no idea what I was going to do after I graduated. I graduated in a tough time where there weren't that many companies hiring communications engineers. And I also didn't know what kind of jobs are out there for communications engineers. Turns out there's a lot, but I wasn't aware of any of them other than software design for communication products. And I only knew that because of my internship at a company called Nortel. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but it used to be a big company in Canada. And that's what I did there. Everything I did after that was either out of convenience or out of luck, or that's the only job that I found. So I did support at Alcatel-Lucent. The reason I did support at Alcatel-Lucent was because I met someone at a picnic and they gave me the job. I didn't know what it meant exactly, and I had no idea where I was going or what I was doing for that job, for that matter. A few years later, I moved to a network design because that was a team that was sat on the same floor as my support team, and I interacted with them. I knew what they did. I enjoyed what they did, so I moved on there. But I didn't actually weigh all my options about what I could possibly do and how I could do it. All that to say is that up until a few months ago, or maybe a year ago, I'll say a year ago, I had no control over my career. My career was reactive. My career was something that was happening to me instead of something that I was purposefully doing. I had a guest on my show earlier. His name is Bob Emberley. And when I asked the same question to almost all my guests, and that question is, what would you advise a sales engineer that you don't think they get from anybody else? And he said, take control of your career. And it's funny that was the first time I've heard that advice from anybody, which seems fairly simple. You should be in control of your career. How come no one's ever told me that? And I hope you guys have had that advice from somebody else. I haven't. But luckily, by the time I heard that, I was actually in the process of starting the podcast, which was a way for me to take control of my career and being proactive. So this podcast is for anyone who believes that their career is happening to them versus them being in control of their career. If you are in control of your career, I'd love for you to stay on and give feedback at the end of the show. We start a conversation to help as many people as possible. And the point of this podcast isn't to tell you my plans, although it is what I'm going to be discussing. But I'm using myself as an example of what I did to take control of my career. So whenever I give you an example about myself, what I would like for you guys to do is to put yourself in my shoes and think about how you would do some of the exercises that I'm going to go through today. And an exercise I went through was the following. There's a lady by the name of Debbie Millman, and she was a guest on the Tim Ferriss show. And if you don't know Tim Ferriss, there's going to be a link on his for his podcast and blog. I would advise that you listen to them because I don't think I can do him justice by explaining what he does. And some people like him, some people don't. But listen to the podcast that I'm going to put in and judge on your own. In any case, so she's a podcaster as well. She also teaches in universities. She teaches design. And the discussion came up where she told Tim Ferriss about an exercise she did a long time ago where she wrote an essay describing her life in 10 years. And at the 10-year mark, she looked back through that essay and noticed that a lot of the things that she wrote down came to fruition. And it is science that, I don't know what science it is, but I've heard it from multiple people that if you write down where you want to end up, there's a better chance of you ending up there versus just thinking it in your mind. I didn't write down an essay about my life in 10 years. What I did was I kind of imagined my life in 30 or 10 or 20 or 5 years, whatever it was. And I asked myself several questions just so I can understand what I want my life to look like. Do I want to be working 80-hour weeks? No. Where do I live? Do I live in a city with a lot of traffic like Toronto or San Francisco? No. Sure, you get paid more, but I didn't enjoy whenever I traveled there. I didn't enjoy being stuck in traffic for hours at a time. What is my family status? I am married. I have 2 children. Is that my priority? Yes. My family is my priority. Is my day flexible? Am I traveling? Am I technical or business oriented? So I asked myself all these questions. And that gave me an idea of what I want my life to look like. Based on that, I started thinking about what kind of jobs would fit that. Lucky for me that when I asked all these questions, it seems that I'm on the right track. Being a sales engineer fits a lot of these criteria that I came up with. But I went deeper. So what do I enjoy doing at work? Well, turns out what I enjoy doing at work is, other than selling to customers, is helping other sales engineers get better as sales engineers. And right now what I'm doing unofficially is helping non-SEs fixing up their resume, helping them practice for interviews, showing them how to do demos for interviews so that they can get a job as a sales engineer. So how can I do that? I'm doing that unofficially. How can I do it officially? Well, 2 things come to mind. Becoming a sales trainer. And another possibility. So a sales trainer would be something independent, something like John Kerr or Brian Geary or Peter Cohan, that sort of thing. Or within my organizational structure, I can become a SE manager or a team lead or an enablement, SE enablement team member, you could say. So these are the thoughts that popped in my head. I wrote them down. But how do I know what I actually want to be? So what I did was connected with a bunch of people who are already in that domain. So I talked to enablement people, and I've noticed that most of what they do is technical, which is not something. Although I enjoy being technical, I think anybody can learn the technology. It's harder to learn the soft skills. So if I were to be an enablement coach within a company, I would rather focus on that. And that's not what they do. So that's out of the question. I've also talked to SE team leads and SE managers. And I've learned about what they do, how they help people. I also learned about what they hate. The paperwork that comes with helping people, hiring people, firing people. So I'm taking down the pros and cons. And I also talk to SE trainers. And the biggest con that I've seen, and it may work for them, it does work for them, they enjoy it, is that they work with companies most of the time. And I want to reach as many SEs out there as possible. And if there's any SEs out there who are like me, part of an organization that does not want to pay for an external coach, then you're screwed. So I would want to be an SE trainer who actually works with SEs as well as organizations. Now, if you're going through the exercise, well, what can you do? Well, you can connect with whoever you're trying to become, and not talking like take over their lives. I'm talking if you want to become an SE manager, you can talk to SE managers out there, kind of like what I did, and ask them questions. What is it like to be a manager? What do you hate? What do you love? Observe their behavior. Are they happy to be there? Are they stressed? Did their hair turn gray all of a sudden since they took the job? Do they look older? Are they excited to go to work? And how they solve problems. These are all questions that you can ask whoever you're trying to emulate. And that's what I did. And that's how I got the information that I briefly mentioned earlier. And again, this podcast is not about me, so I'm not going through every thought process that I went through, but I'm just giving you the idea of what I went through so that hopefully it will help other people who are in the same boat. So in addition to that, I talked to people who are higher up, like what I aspire to be when I'm done. Directors, VPs, that sort of thing. And I gathered that information from them. Based on that, I came up with a couple of different career path choices for me. And you could do the same thing. I am currently an SE, and the path that I wrote down first was SE manager, director, VP. So SE manager first, or it could be SE team lead, SE manager, director, and then VP. And then I realized that VP would be too far removed from the customers and the employees. And that's based on my experience with my VPs in the past. So my career path in that case ended at director. So SE team lead, SE manager, director. Doesn't mean I'm going to achieve that, but that is my goal. That is what I strive for, at least one of my potential goals that I could be working for. And based on the directors that I know, I've felt that they've had a higher impact on how I do my job. So it's a good place to aspire to. Another career path would be to own my own trading company where I can work with companies, organizations, and more importantly for me, individuals. And then that career path is kind of like one step. So it's a career stop, I guess, more than a career path. So if you're doing this for yourself, imagine where you want to end up and what are the steps that you need to get to go there. In someone in my situation who wants to go SE team lead, manager, director, could I skip a step? Would it be beneficial to skip a step? Would it be detrimental to skip a step? For example, if I skipped team lead and went straight to manager, Would that be a good thing or a bad thing? What if I went to SE team lead and loved it so much that I didn't feel the need to go up to manager? So these are all things that you might want to consider while you're doing your career path. Once I came up with my career path, I started looking at what my actual next steps would be. In my case, specifically in my case, I just moved to a new job with a new company. So in my mind, all I want to do right now is prove myself. I'm not looking to get a job as an SE team lead within the next year. I'm more thinking about like, hey, I want to excel at what I do today. I want to show them that they made the right decision by hiring me and giving me the amount of responsibility that they gave me. And in fact, they can give me more. And the best thing I can do for myself and my organization that just put their trust in me is to try to, if I want to move up, would be try to move up within that company. So my next steps basically is to kick ass, for lack of better words. I guess I need to beep that out, or I'll just keep it. And once I do that first step, which is excel, then I can review, hey, am I enjoying what I'm doing today? Do I want to become a team lead? Do I want to become a manager? And if no, I don't, I'm happy with what I'm doing, then I continue doing what I'm doing because I've achieved the job that I kind of described in the first set of questions I asked myself. So it seems that that's it. Like, it's only been 16 or almost 17 minutes that this podcast has been going, and I could pad it with some extra words, but there is no point. I don't think so. I've delivered my thoughts on this, and I don't really need to just talk to pad it, so I'm going to shut up now. So in conclusion, this is the exercise that I did, that I went through myself, which first off made me start this podcast, and second off made me move from company A to company B. And in order to help as many people as possible, I came up with that free email course. And it's basically the exercise that I went through. If you want some accountability, some direction on how to come up with your career plan, your career path, then I would recommend that you go to WeTheSalesEngineers.com/career builder and sign up for the free email course. It's basically 5 or 6 emails, I can't remember, where I send them to you every few days, and it's an exercise where you do what I'm asking you to do on the email in order to have a better idea of what your plan is and how you want to attack your career. So again, WeTheSalesEngineers.com/career builder and sign up there. Once you receive the email, go through the exercise. You can either go through the exercise on your own. You can go, if you have a bunch of friends that are going through it with you, then talk to each other, share the information with each other. If you're solo and you're going through it on your own and you need some accountability, you want some help, then just hit the reply button with the answers and I will look at them and I'll be your accountability partner. You will find the link as well at WeTheSalesEngineers.com/show52. And that's it. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. And I hope that this 20-minute podcast was as useful to you as any other podcast. If not, you hated it, just let me know. I won't do as many of them. If you loved it, then I'll do more. Just let me know. This is for you, not for me. Although it is fun for me to do. With that, this is Ramsey signing off.